Bjorn, explain then this catastrophizing. I mean, we've had claims that the Great Barrier Reef is dying from global warming. In fact, as you know, coral cover is near record highs. We've had our Prime Minister last week agree to take in 280 so-called climate refugees from Tuvalu because it's sinking, 280 a year. But in fact, as I think you've recently pointed out, the research says something very different about Tuvalu. It's growing. It's actually growing. So why these absurd scares?
Well, I think it's simply because we're asking people. So the whole climate story is asking people to spend somewhere between 5 and 15% of global GDP over this entire century on transforming the world from its current fossil fuel-based economy to a green economy. This is going to be fantastically costly. This is orders of magnitude more costly than any other thing that we've ever done. For instance, probably the most costly policy decision before that was the restitution from the Versailles Treaty forced on Germany, which was, of course, unaffordable. But we're talking about something that's much, much larger. We're talking about upwards of $2,000 trillion in cost over the century. You're not going to get people to do that unless you scare the pants off of them. So the reality here is it's a problem. And what we should do with the problem is figure out, how do we smartly attack that? We should have some measures that actually reduce carbon emissions right now. We should also look at innovation, which is by far going to be the biggest issue. But of course, that doesn't sound like you're really taking this seriously enough. And so you paint up the end of the world, and then you say, spend everything.
Well, that's what makes me wonder whether in some ways it's another one of these millenarian cults, sort of, you know, it's interesting. There's a little bit of a Christian eschatology here, you know, where sinful man going to wipe out, you know, we're going to drown like Noah's flood because we have got our relationship with the earth gods, whatever, are out of sync. But I also wonder, you mentioned the money. Is it also because there's so much money in it that so many people are pushing this along? I mean, you pointed out the other day that in the United States, non-government organizations in 2021 spent, and this is US dollars, between $8 and $9 billion annually on this issue. I mean, this is just incredible amount of money.
Yes. And the depressing part of the story was from New York Times that they no longer can afford, the environmental organization, they can no longer afford to care for wildlife because nobody's giving them money to that. Everyone is just giving them money for climate. Now, obviously, there's a lot of money in climate, and I think some people obviously get hitched on this because of the money. But I think the fundamental point is a lot of people feel just like the crying girl we saw earlier, just feel this is the end of the world. I need to do something. And this is because we constantly tell people one side of the story. We tell them, here's a fire, here's a drought, here's a flood, without looking at the overall picture, which of course is that we're better able to handle all of those catastrophes and actually have less impact on humans, less impact on the economy, and be better off. We are going to live longer. We're going to be better educated. We're going to have higher incomes. We're going to be much better off. But because of global warming, we'll be slightly less, much better off. That's a very different story. And we need to get that story out because we need to stop scaring people and start getting to realize this is one of the many problems we need to fix in the 21st century. But it's not the only one. And it's not where we should be spending all the money.
Bjorn, thank you so much for that, mate. I really appreciate your good common sense, and as always, I admire your gardening prowess. I wish my plants looked as healthy as yours. Thank you so much indeed for your time. Love to catch up.